What if I told you that just 100 kilometers above your head, the world as you know it completely disappears, and beyond that invisible boundary lies the endless darkness of space? Here is the expanded Key Point 1 as a speech segment. Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered where Earth actually ends? It seems like a simple question. We live beneath the sky every day. We watch clouds drift overhead, airplanes cross the horizon, and stars appear after sunset. Yet if someone asked us to point to the exact place where Earth's atmosphere ends and outer space begins, most of us could not answer. That mysterious boundary is known as the edge of space. It is one of the most fascinating frontiers in existence because it represents the transition between two completely different worlds. On one side is Earth, a planet filled with oceans, mountains, weather, life, and breathable air. On the other side lies the vastness of space, an environment so extreme that human beings cannot survive there without technology. For centuries, humanity could only dream about reaching this boundary. Ancient civilizations looked toward the heavens and imagined what might exist beyond the blue sky. The stars appeared distant and unreachable. The sky itself seemed endless. No one knew where it stopped or what lay beyond it. Then science began to reveal the truth. The blue sky above us is not infinite. Earth's atmosphere gradually becomes thinner and thinner as altitude increases, air pressure decreases, temperatures change. The familiar environment that supports life slowly fades away. Eventually, a point is reached where the atmosphere becomes so thin that space effectively begins. But even this boundary is not as simple as it sounds. Unlike a shoreline separating land and sea, the edge of space is not a visible line drawn across the sky. There is no giant wall, no cosmic gate, no dramatic border marking the transition. Instead, it is a gradual journey from the world we know into the darkness beyond. That idea is both beautiful and mysterious, because it means that space is not entirely separate from Earth. The two are connected through a delicate transition zone, stretching high above our heads. Every day we live beneath this invisible frontier without noticing it. Above the clouds, above the weather, above the highest mountains and commercial aircraft, there exists a boundary that has inspired explorers, scientists and dreamers for generations, a place where Earth's influence begins to fade and the universe starts to reveal itself, a silent frontier hanging above every person on Earth, waiting at the threshold between the world we know and the infinite cosmos beyond. Here is the expanded Key Point 2 as a speech segment. To understand the edge of space, we must first understand the incredible journey required to reach it. The path from Earth's surface to the threshold of space is not a simple climb upward. It is a passage through multiple layers of the atmosphere, each one unique, each one playing a vital role in protecting life on our planet. When we stand on the ground, we are inside the lowest layer of the atmosphere known as the troposphere. This is the world of clouds, rain, wind, and weather. It is the layer where humans live, breathe, and experience daily life. As we rise higher, we enter the stratosphere. Here, the air becomes thinner and calmer. Commercial airplanes often fly near this region because weather disturbances are much less common. Above us, the ozone layer quietly absorbs much of the sun's harmful radiation, protecting life below. But the journey does not stop there. Beyond the stratosphere lies the mesosphere, a cold and mysterious region where many meteors burn up before reaching Earth. Every shooting star you see at night is often a tiny piece of space debris, meeting its fiery end in this layer. Higher still is the thermosphere. Temperatures here can become extremely high due to intense solar radiation. This is also where beautiful auroras, the northern and southern lights, can appear, painting the sky with glowing colors. And finally, the atmosphere becomes incredibly thin. The higher you travel, the fewer air molecules remain. The sky begins to darken. The familiar blue color fades away. Breathing becomes impossible without specialized equipment. The environment becomes increasingly similar to outer space. What makes this journey remarkable is that each layer acts like part of a protective shield surrounding Earth. Together they regulate temperature, block harmful radiation, burn up incoming meteors, and create the conditions necessary for life. Without these layers, our planet would be a far more hostile place. The atmosphere may seem invisible, but it is one of Earth's greatest defenses. And as we move upward through these layers, we begin to realize something extraordinary. The edge of space is not reached in a single leap. It is reached through a gradual, Transition across the protective layers that make life possible. A journey through invisible worlds stacked above one another, leading ever higher toward the place where Earth's atmosphere gives way to the endless darkness of space. Here is the expanded Key Point 3 as a speech segment. When most people imagine the edge of space, they picture a dramatic boundary, a giant wall separating Earth from the cosmos, a visible line where the blue sky suddenly ends and outer space begins. But reality is far more fascinating. The edge of space does not look like a doorway or a border. It looks like a transformation. As you rise higher and higher above Earth, something extraordinary begins to happen. The familiar blue sky that surrounds us every day starts to change. At first, the difference is subtle. The atmosphere becomes thinner, the air becomes clearer, and the horizon stretches farther than most people can imagine. Then the transformation becomes impossible to ignore. The deep blue sky begins to darken. The higher you travel, the less atmosphere remains to scatter sunlight. Gradually, the brilliant blue color fades into darker shades. What was once bright and familiar slowly becomes black, and yet below you, Earth remains illuminated. This creates one of the most breathtaking sights in the universe, a glowing blue planet suspended beneath a sea of darkness. From the edge of space, Earth appears curved. The horizon bends gently across the distance. A thin blue line, the atmosphere, wraps around the planet like a fragile veil. It looks surprisingly delicate, especially when compared to the vast darkness beyond. Many astronauts and high-altitude explorers describe this view as life-changing. For the first time, national borders disappear, cities become invisible. The concerns that dominate daily life seem small compared to the immense scale of the planet and the cosmos surrounding it. The edge of space reveals Earth in a completely different way. Not as a collection of countries, not as separate societies, but as a single world floating alone in the darkness. Perhaps that is why this view has such a powerful effect on people. It forces us to see our planet from a perspective few have ever experienced. A world of oceans, clouds, mountains, and life, protected by a thin layer of atmosphere against the emptiness of space. No wall marks the boundary. No sign announces your arrival. Only a gradual transformation from blue to black. From the familiar to the unknown. From Earth to the cosmos. A breathtaking transition where the sky slowly disappears, and the universe finally reveals itself in all its silent, infinite grandeur. Here is the expanded Key Point 4 as a speech segment. When we look up at the sky, it feels limitless. The atmosphere seems vast, stretching endlessly above us. It is easy to assume that the protective blanket surrounding Earth must be enormous. But one of the most surprising discoveries about our planet is just how thin that protective layer actually is. From the ground, the atmosphere appears immense. Yet when viewed from the edge of space, it looks like a delicate blue line wrapped around Earth. A thin shell separating life from one of the harshest environments imaginable. And that thin line changes everything. Without it, life as we know it would not exist. The atmosphere provides the air we breathe. It regulates temperature. It protects us from harmful radiation. Coming from the sun, it burns up countless meteors before they can reach the surface. It helps maintain the conditions that allow oceans, forests, animals, and human civilizations to thrive. All of these extraordinary functions are performed by a layer that is remarkably fragile when viewed on a planetary scale. Beyond it lies a completely different reality. Space is a vacuum. There is no breathable air. Temperatures can become extreme. Dangerous radiation travels freely. Sound cannot move through the emptiness. Human beings cannot survive there without advanced technology and protection. The edge of space therefore represents more than a scientific boundary. It is the line between survival and exposure. The line between a world carefully balanced for life and an environment that is largely hostile to it. Perhaps that is why astronauts often describe seeing Earth from space as a deeply emotional experience. From above, the atmosphere does not appear powerful. It appears fragile. It becomes clear that every living thing on Earth depends upon this thin protective shield. Every city, every forest, every ocean, every human life, all protected by a layer so delicate that it can be seen as a narrow, blue glow against the darkness of space. That realization changes perspective. It reminds us that Earth is not an isolated world separated from the universe by massive walls. Instead, it is a living planet protected by a surprisingly thin boundary. A boundary that makes every breath possible. A boundary that shields an entire world from the harshness beyond. a fragile blue line hanging between life and the void, quietly protecting everything we have ever known. Here is the expanded Key Point 5 as a speech segment. Reaching the edge of space is not something that happens easily. It is not a simple journey upward. It is one of the most extreme challenges that human beings can face, because the environment changes in ways that are beyond ordinary experience. As you rise higher above Earth, the air begins to thin rapidly. What was once a breathable atmosphere slowly becomes a near vacuum. Each breath becomes impossible without artificial support. The human body, which is designed for life at sea level, begins to struggle in ways it was never meant to experience. Temperature is another challenge. At high altitudes, conditions can change dramatically. Some layers of the upper atmosphere are extremely cold, while others are heated by direct solar radiation. This creates an environment that is unpredictable and harsh, far removed from the stable conditions we know on the surface. Pressure also decreases significantly. Without atmospheric pressure, the human body cannot function normally. Fluids behave differently. Survival becomes impossible without a sealed environment. Oxygen supply and advanced protective systems, and then there is radiation. Above much of Earth's protective atmosphere, exposure to solar and cosmic radiation increases. These invisible forces travel through space constantly, and without Earth's shielding layers, they can become dangerous to living organisms. All of these challenges explain why reaching the edge of space requires highly advanced technology. High-altitude aircraft, pressurized capsules, spacesuits, and carefully engineered systems are all necessary just to survive. A brief journey toward this boundary, even the smallest failure in equipment can turn a mission into a life-threatening situation. This is why only a very small number of humans have ever experienced the view from near space. It is not just a scientific achievement. It is a survival challenge. And yet, despite all these dangers, humanity continues to push upward. Engineers design stronger spacecraft. Scientists study the atmosphere in greater detail. Explorers and astronauts risk everything to see what lies beyond the sky. Because the desire to explore is stronger than the fear of the unknown. Every step closer to the edge of space reveals both the fragility of human life and the strength of human innovation. A place where survival becomes difficult, where technology becomes essential, and where humanity is tested by the very environment it seeks to understand. The edge of space is not just difficult to reach. It is a reminder of how extreme and powerful the universe truly is. Here is the expanded Key Point 6 as a speech segment. As we reach the end of this journey, we discover that the edge of space is more than a location. It is a perspective. For most of our lives, we experience Earth from the ground. We see cities, roads, mountains, and oceans. We divide the world into countries, cultures, and borders. Our daily concerns feel large because they exist at the center of our attention. But everything changes when viewed from the edge of space. From that extraordinary height, Earth appears different. The planet no longer looks endless. It becomes a beautiful sphere floating alone in the darkness. The vast continents shrink. National boundaries disappear. Human conflicts become invisible. What remains is a single world. A small blue planet surrounded by the infinite cosmos. This view has transformed the thinking of many astronauts who have witnessed it firsthand. Some describe feeling a profound sense of connection to humanity. Others speak of a deeper appreciation for Earth's beauty and fragility. Many return with the realization that all life shares the same home. The edge of space reveals something that is difficult to understand from the ground. Earth is both incredibly large and astonishingly small. Large enough to contain billions of people, diverse ecosystems, and countless wonders, yet small enough to be only a tiny speck within a universe filled with galaxies, stars, and mysteries beyond imagination. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. The universe does not diminish humanity. Instead, it gives context to our existence. It reminds us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. At the same time, it highlights how extraordinary it is that conscious beings evolved on this small world and became capable of exploring the cosmos. Think about that for a moment. A species living beneath a thin atmosphere learned to build telescopes, rockets, and spacecraft. It learned to reach toward the stars and ask questions about the universe itself. That achievement is remarkable. The edge of space is not only a boundary between Earth and the cosmos. It is a reminder of human curiosity, exploration, and wonder, a place where our planet appears both fragile and magnificent, and where humanity is reminded that although we occupy only a tiny corner of the universe, We possess the extraordinary ability to look beyond it and seek understanding among the stars. Standing at the edge of space, you realize a breathtaking truth. Earth is not the center of the universe. It is a tiny blue miracle floating in an ocean of infinite darkness.